Hello beautiful people of the world, it's your friend Sean Kirk here. Welcome to episode number 2 of Kirk Questions. I had to think of what we were doing for a second there. It is a pleasure to be back on your mobile device screen or laptop screen again, or wherever you're watching from. Thank you so much to everyone who sent in questions. There is more this week, they're building up, and we're going to try our best to keep up with them all. And I've got Tyler is here today to join me so that I don't have to squinty eye read them all out from my computer screen. Tyler's going to read them out for me, and I'm just going to freestyle it and see how we go.
The first question comes from Tani Howie on Facebook, and she asks, where do you find your motivation for your marathon training?
Very, very good question, Tani. I've done a lot of research on motivation over the last couple of years. And what I've learned is that I used to be of the mindset that motivation kind of comes to you when the time is right. What I've learned is that motivation is actually something that you have to go and kind of create. And the hardest part is getting that started, but it's kind of like a snowball rolling down a hill. Once you kind of get started and you start rolling, you gather up momentum and the ball gets bigger, and so it becomes easier and easier and easier to roll. So that's kind of how I've been rolling with my half marathon training, is that just sticking to the routine, just not listening to that little voice in my head when it tells me, no, don't get out of bed this morning, just sleep in, sleep in, just you'll be fine today. Just not listening to that and just getting on with it. Now it's routine. I read a book recently that talked about it takes 66 days to create a habit. So kind of like brushing your teeth, if you do it for 66 days in a row, once you've done that, it's naturally kind of ingrained into your brain and into your daily routine. So I've now been training full time really since January. So that is how I keep my motivation for the half marathon training, and a whole lot of other aspects of my life now use that model of just sticking to it and letting the momentum build.
Now, this is another Facebook question. This comes from Tracy Nelson on Facebook.
Tracy.
How do you choose a song order on an album? Is it random or is there a method?
Good question, Tracy. It is, most of the time, it's not completely random. Like, it depends on a couple of things, like depending how perfectionist you want to be. Done is better than perfect. Depending on how perfectionist you want to be. But the main thing I look out for is making sure that the songs aren't too similar. 2 songs in a row very similar can throw the kind of the balance of a record. You kind of want it to be a bit of I personally want it to be a bit of a roller coaster ride for people. So I'll kind of have like you might start off with a track that has a very instant intro or a really long intro that kind of draws the listener in. And, that might be an upbeat song. And then so the second song might be something that's a little bit down tempo and vice versa. There's also, like, when it comes to it's not such a factor anymore that now people are downloading and streaming mostly, but definitely when in the early days of me playing music and printing CDs, it was very much a visual thing as well. Like, how do the songs look on the back of a CD written out? Do they look in their right spot? So that could also play a factor as well. But that's getting that was the perfectionist in me for sure. But yeah, I'd say the main thing is just making sure that the songs flow and create that little kind of roller coaster ride for the listener.
This one comes from Anna Hennessy 2016 from Instagram, and they ask, will you ever grow dreadlocks again?
Will I ever grow dreadlocks again? No, I will not. The dreadlocks were a fantastic stage in my life. I had them from, I think, when I was about 18 till maybe 21 or 22, I reckon. They were great, but they're not coming back. I still remember the day that I cut my dreadlocks off and went to bed and had a shower for the first time without dreadlocks, and actually felt like water hitting my head again. And it was amazing. And yeah, as great as they were a hassle. They were a weight on my head, and I just think I'm past that stage in my life. I'm grown up now, so I don't think the dreadlocks will be coming back, unfortunately. I hope you didn't want them to come back, Anna, because I just don't think they will be, sorry to say. But thank you for your question.
All right. The next question comes from @AdamWarrenMusic from Instagram, and they ask, do you ever struggle for the first line of a song? How do you find the first line of a story?
That's a really good one, Adam. Do I ever struggle for the first line of a song? I would say yes and no. Like, I don't necessarily, when I'm writing songs, they don't necessarily start at the very beginning and kind of I build them like a house and until they're finished. A song for me these days, writing a song is a big journey. Usually a big journey. It's very rare that it's a short journey. And when I first start writing that song, what feels like it could be a first verse might actually end up being a bridge or a second verse or maybe even a chorus. But I do really pride myself on a good first line, or try my absolute best to get a good first line. I think first lines are so important. I've read the Paul Kelly book, How to Make Gravy, his bio or memoir or whatever you'd call it, and he talks about first lines of songs and the importance of them, and he lists a whole lot of really good ones. I'm trying to think of some of the ones. I think it was like Springsteen's where they blew up the Chicken Man in Philly last night. Like, what a first line, things like that. And he also talks about how he really loves first lines that sound like the story is kind of already halfway being told. Usually it's things get flipped and changed and worked around in the process of writing the song.
The next one comes from Joe Jones on Facebook.
Joe Jones. Love it.
And they ask, what's the most useful guitar riff / technique you have learned?
The most useful guitar technique I've learnt. I would say just scales, I guess. Like just practicing my scales and practicing my standard chords. Yeah, I don't know if Joe Jones is a guitarist, but I could maybe do a little quick example with the guitar here. But just like my pentatonic scales. And just doing that up and down. Over and over and over and over again is really good for your fingers. It builds the muscles in your fingers. Yeah, once you get a hold of it, a hang of it, you can turn those into little solos and stuff. So I would say that's the most handy technique, and then just giving the guitar a good old strum. I tend to, when I can, say I'm sitting on the couch with Anita watching some TV or some Netflix at night or something like that. I'll just sit and kind of strum away and just move my fingers around, my hands around. And yeah, that's I would say is the best learning technique. Just practice until it just feels like natural.
The next question comes from @Nathan Cavalieri.
Nathan!
From Instagram, who asks, what does your dream tour vehicle look like?
My dream tour vehicle. Nathan, thank you so much for your question, my brother. My dream tour vehicle, I think I could be really out there and say it's like some kind of vehicle and it's got all these special features and stuff like that. But I've always just dreamed of doing a tour in the States or in Europe or something like that, in one of those big tour buses where you've got all your crew on board with you and you're all sleeping in bunk beds, and you've got a driver that picks you up after the show and takes you, and by the time you've kind of had a good, maybe not a good night's sleep, but an all right night's sleep, you're in the next city. Probably what you have done in your past, Nathan. I would imagine when you were getting around the States and shredding guitar with B.B. King and the like, you amazing human. I would say, yeah, that's my dream. Just give me just a standard tour bus and a really great crew and a couple of highways to drive it down, and or maybe not to drive it down, maybe to hang out while someone else drives it, and I'd be stoked. That would be the dream for me.
Now we've got the last question.
Oh, lucky last.
Lucky last.
Don't stuff it up, Tyler.
It's my time to shine.
It's your time to shine.
Alright, the last question is from Instagram and comes from the Lane Woofy. And they are...
The who?
The Lane Woofy.
The Lane Woofy. Or Wolfie. Woofy?
Woof.
Woof.
Like...
The Lane Woofy.
Oh wait, no, wolf.
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 Wolfie. Ow!
Ow.
Okay, yeah, right.
And I can never pronounce wolf and wolf.
The-
They come out the same.
The Lane Wolfie. Okay.
Wolfie.
Wolfie.
From Instagram
From Insta.
asks, what is your pedal board guitar signal chain?
Ah, good one, Lane Wolfie. My guitar signal chain, at the moment, it's always changing, and I'm always experimenting with it. But for a while now, actually, it's been. So what have I got? I'm actually looking at it as we speak. I start with a Vox Joe Satriani delay pedal. I'm very lucky to have an endorsement with Vox, and they actually gave me the very last pedal that was made. Can't remember what what's it called? It's a time machine. That's the one. So I've got a time machine at the very beginning of the chain, and I got the very last one that was in the factory, and it's actually got Joe Satriani's signature on it. So that sits on my pedal board. Then next in line, I've got a Phase 90, I think they're called, an MXR. I'm not like total nerd on the names of these pedals, but I just like the sound of them. So I've got a Phase pedal, which I kind of barely use. It shows it kind of comes out very rarely. It's very limited used pedal. Then I've got the two Strymon pedals. I love Strymon pedals. I've got a Flint, which gives me a tremolo sound and a reverb sound, like a really like nice, almost like a Fender kind of amp reverb. And then I have the Strymon Deco pedal, which is I use to get like a tape saturation sound on my guitar. I kind of like tape saturation as opposed to just overdrive. And then that one also gives me like a slap delay. So it kind of sounds like a guitar being played in a really small room and slapping against the walls. And I just use that quite subtly, the slap. And then I've got just a good old-fashioned Boss blues driver at the end of it. So like I said, I tend to go for the tape saturation sound more, but in a couple of like my more kind of raucous songs, I'll slap on the tape saturation and the overdrive at the same time, and just kind of gets a bit nasty and disgusting. But yeah, that's my chain. And then I also like split the channel of my guitar. So we do like a bass sound from the guitar through a Boss octave pedal. That's the little chain there. That's how I get my guitar sound and effects. And of course, a lot of that is the pickup in my K guitar as well, which is just a beautiful old D-Armond pickup. That's my sound. And that's the episode. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always. I hope you've really enjoyed the episode. Thank you so much to everyone who sent in questions. If there's anyone out there with some more questions, drop them in the comments below right now. Go for it. Don't hold back. If you've got something in your mind, go now. Quick, go, boom. Thank you so much. If you haven't already, throw us a like on Facebook or a follow on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and all those socials. We've got plenty more cool content coming your way very soon.